I'm your boogeyman, that's what I am. I'm here to do whatever I can. Be it early morning, late afternoon, or at midnight.
What's going on, everybody? We are super excited to have a big-time guest for episode 3 of Fire and Ice podcast. He, is a veteran of the NBA. He was the head of NBA Entertainment. He's now the vice president and executive producer for the New York Giants. Don Sperling, thanks for coming on, Don.
My pleasure, boys.
So, Don, a little bit of background on what Fire and Ice is, we're a sports podcast, but we like to give people the behind-the-scenes look. So something that they might not see on television, and who better to have on than Mr. Behind-the-Scenes himself, you. You've been working behind the scenes with the NBA and the NFL for going on, I believe, 28 years. So, no one in the business knows it better. So why don't we start off a little bit.
I like 28 because it makes me feel younger. It's actually a lot more.
And it's also number 28 is the championship the Yankees are going to get this year.
If they have a season.
That's true. We'll get into it.
So why don't you start us off a little bit about how you started NBA Entertainment and, how that came to be. I know you obviously grew it into hundreds of employees, but when you first started off, David Stern was the commissioner, and there wasn't really the emphasis on marketing and whatnot. I think that, was not allowing the league to grow. So give us a little background about, how you really grew the league in that sense.
So I was actually working down in Atlanta for CNN. I was there at CNN when they first went on the air. We actually just had the 40th anniversary of CNN, June 1st, 1980. So I was down at CNN. I was in Atlanta for about 2.5 years. And I had always kept in touch with, a lot of people in New York. I had worked in New York before I went down to Atlanta. And somebody had told me that the NBA was wanted to take in Side House. They had basically licensed out to a company, Winnick Films, the rights to do all the production, the licensed footage, to do all the kind of championship tapes, all that stuff. But now David Stern, who was about to be commissioner, was not yet commissioner. Larry O'Brien was still commissioner. This is late 1983. And I went up to interview, and I interviewed with David Stern and talked about, passion, love for the NBA, obviously the Knicks, growing up a Knicks fan. I was there when Willis Reed walked out. I went in 1970, the Knicks championship, 1973. I always had a passion and love for the Knicks and the NBA. And I was at CNN, I was working, and I just said to myself, this is an incredible opportunity. So I interviewed with David, and here's a funny thing. So I'm leaving the interview. I thought I really did well in the interview. We kind of hit it off. And as I'm leaving, he goes, hold on. And I said, oh, no. I turn around, he goes, just remember one thing. It's better to be lucky than smart. And I swear to God, that stuck with me the rest of my career, because if you would think I was at the NBA from basically late 82, but 83 to 98, which is if you had to pick 15 years to be at the NBA, like if you just said, I'm going to throw it down, I'm not going to say when you worked and when you didn't, pick 15 years to be at the NBA, it would be 83 to 98. It was the year before the greatest finals ever, Bird versus Magic, 84. Jordan comes in the league at 84, leaves in 98, the dream team, and, and on and on. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I agree. Obviously, I've had to go back and watch some of your NBA production tapes, to get the full feel for those years. But tell me about Magic and Bird and how they kind of changed the league, in terms of, like I mentioned before, marketing, but also, just people being involved in, the game. The finals games used to be on tape delay. They weren't even live. So
1982. In 1982, the year before I came in 82, 83 was my first season. Julius Erving and the Sixers won the championship that year. And my first All-Star game was Marvin Gaye singing the national anthem. So that was like, I was standing there like, I can't believe I'm in the Forum and Marvin Gaye is singing the anthem like this. It was insane. But basically it was on tape delay. And David, we used to meet regularly with NBA properties. Rick Welch, who's now the president of Golden State, was the head of properties then. We would all talk about how we had the ability here, the NBA's reputation wasn't fairly depicting what the league really was. You had these great players and these great guys, but you had some bad apples. And if you let the media tell your message, and if you let, the stories that go out in the newspapers tell your story, that's a mistake. So we decided that we had the advantage of guys basically playing almost in their underwear. Let's face it, they got tank tops and shorts on. Their faces are up close. The cameras are up close. They're not wearing batting helmets. They're not wearing football helmets. They're not wearing hockey helmets. They're not wearing heavy equipment and uniform. So we had the ability to take these superstars like Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, Julius Erving, the guys that, Marcus Johnson at the time, who was, amazing player. I'm kind of going back, but you had these personalities and you had these amazing athletes, and we decided to market them as athletes. And it went away from you still had hardcore Celtic fans and Laker fans and Knicks fans, but the other sports like the NFL basically sells laundry. Baseball sells laundry. You're rooting for the team more than the star. The NBA was the first sport to sell the star over. So you would have guys come in. You couldn't get Laker and Celtic tickets in the Garden because Bird and Magic were coming in. Okay, you had, that Julius Erving, when the Sixers came in, everybody wanted to see the Doc. Okay, so we were selling individuals and stars, and then our sponsors and our partners were going along, and then CBS Sports jumped on and was starting to market it like that. And it was just a large contingent. It was really like everybody at one time realizing this is how we're going to market, this is how we're going to produce, and this is how we're going to broadcast our sport.
Yeah, now you look at guys like LeBron James, who are their own entity. They're basically bigger than the NBA at this point. And it's crazy to think that the NBA is that much different than these other sports. I was talking about it yesterday on a show. Like Mike Trout, they don't market him correctly. They don't market any of these guys.
Part of that is Trout himself.
He's sure.
Not a guy that loves that, but that guy's that guy's the best player in baseball.
Yeah, he's a Mickey Mantle reincarnated, and he should be able to. I don't think they market him correctly at all. Manfred said that it's his fault and vice versa. So we'll never know with them. But do you have any Michael Jordan stories for me? I don't know. It sounded like you knew Michael Jordan a little bit.
A little, just a little. Yeah. So it's funny. So you have the '84 finals, right? And the draft that year happens to be Michael Jordan. There actually was it was either 30 for 30 or the NBA did the 1984 season, a documentary, and how it was a watershed moment for the NBA because you had Bird and Magic, who had obviously played in college, which was known as like the greatest fun, college championship game of all time, Bird versus Magic. Even though the game wasn't as close, but it was this amazing matchup of two completely different personalities. But if you really think about it, they were almost the same kind of player. They both were multi-tool players. Bird to me is still the most underrated in a way because he played on these teams. Like if Bird wanted to, he had McHale and Parrish and these guys. Bird could get 20 rebounds a game anytime he wanted. And he was an amazing passer. And obviously his shooting is not to be even argued about. But he was incredible. And Magic obviously couldn't shoot like Bird, but passing and everything else, and to play at that, to 6'9.5", 6'10", to be a point guard. I mean, you had these two athletes that took the sport, and the '84 finals went 7 games, and it was brutal. It was LA, Boston. They hated each other. I mean, it was basketball at its best. To me, still, to this day, the only thing that I say, the only sort of criticism I have about the NBA now versus then is if you watch that finals, every shot was contested. Every shot was contested. I mean, you watch the first half of Golden State versus Cleveland, guys are running up and down the court. Yeah, they contest, they're playing hard. But it was, also the rules were different. You could, now, you touch a guy, it's a foul. There were guys, like if you came into the lane, like when the Pistons played, you paid the price, okay? And the 90 Knicks, you paid the price if you came into the lane. Now the rules, obviously, aren't made for physical teams. It's kind of hard. And if you are physical, you usually end up getting a lot of flagrants and getting fined and getting your ass sit down, You can say
it's gotten soft.
No rules on this one, yeah.
It's gotten really soft, the NBA. I mean, I think we all know that. I mean, watching James Harden play 7 games in a row against another team and get 31 points by doing this all day is insanity to me. Like, I can't stand it.
I mean, they're amazingly skilled, and obviously things have changed. Social media has changed everything. The access, things could go on. You could say things, and if it was just a writer's word versus your word, it didn't matter. Now everything is, these guys got to be so careful because you're right about it's their brand. It's LeBron's brand. It's Curry's brand. It's, before, yes, it was about Larry and Michael and Magic and those guys, but there wasn't the only guy who really had a brand back then was Michael. Because of Nike and all of his, and Wheaties and all of Gatorade and all of his partners. But social media, forget it. If there was social media back then, they would have skewered Jordan. I mean, really. Because you just can't, the things you saw in The Last Dance, some of the candid stuff never came out because people respected, there was an honor code. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I saw stuff that still this day, I wouldn't talk about. I saw compromising situations, and it was just an honor code, But now there's no such thing because everybody has a phone camera.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like Michael Jordan was such a killer. Like, obviously he was punching teammates in the face. We've heard the stories. We've all heard the stories.
That happens everywhere, though. You know what?
No, for sure.
That happens all the time.
For sure. But I'm just saying we could have gotten a more in-depth thing on Michael Jordan if Michael Jordan's team didn't produce that, basically.
Well, it was like Bryan at Irvington High School. He was the bully in the locker room. If no one listened to him, he'd haul off and cold cock you.
I believe you.
Everyone stayed in fear in the Irvington High School locker room of Bryan. It was really scary.
I believe it too, because we did the intro, and I remember hanging out with Icey a little bit in college or whatever. The guy's 6'4". He made me look like a 7-year-old. I'm not that tall, so I believe it. I believe him taking lunch money.
No, actually, he was the protector of the innocent and the weak, Bryan.
I was a man of the people my whole life.
All right. We digressed a little. All right. But so Jordan comes into the league, and listen, everyone talks about, Sam Bowie and Hakeem. Listen, Hakeem, if you had to do it all over again, obviously you might, but Hakeem was the number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, that's the pick.
Back then, the big man, having a center was the entire key. The game revolved around the centers. You had to draft Hakeem Olajuwon. The Sam Bowie one is obviously tough because the scouting reports were that he was a little fragile and so forth. But that just showed you how a big man. And it also shows you that nobody knew that Jordan was going to be that good. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not like he averaged 30 points a game. I mean, that famous saying, who's the only guy who can hold Jordan under 20 points? Dean Smith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
sure. With the 4 corners and all that. Nobody knew. I mean, look, they knew he was great because he was drafted there. They knew he was an amazing talent. But you have to look at it in perspective. And it fell into Rod Thorne's lap. And even Rod Thorne will admit it, oh my God, I got Michael Jordan. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
And then right in preseason, you started to see like, holy this guy is out of his mind.
Right.
And knew right away. Even the Bulls coaches, when they were talking to Stan Albeck, they were like, dude, this guy's like easily the best guy in the team already. Like 3 practices in. So, he starts and then, you heard the story with Nike. And once he had a shoe named after him, which was really rare. I mean, everybody had a Converse shoe. Magic had the same shoe. Bird had the same shoe. Julius had the same shoe. Isaiah had the same shoe. They all had that Converse shoe. And everyone figured, all right, Jordan will sign with Converse. That'll be that. But the Nike changed the whole dynamic. It changed everything. The commercials, the way they marketed them, everything. And then we fell in line, obviously. We started to produce as much. But the thing is, Michael's partners made it so easy for us because you had Gatorade, you had Nike, you had Wheaties, you had all that. You didn't have to work as hard to market a guy like that when all your business partners were doing your job for you. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. And sorry, go ahead, Ice.
I was going to say, there's a famous clip that we have a producer that'll put it in at this part of the show. But can you talk about being on that deck when Jordan launched the football 65 yards? It's on YouTube with Ahmad Rashad. Was that some sort of bet or,
No. Well, we were doing a piece for Inside Stuff, like a 2-part, Michael unwrapped, we traveled with him. We spent, the day before with him. Then we spent the whole day, went back to his house, hung out, with his kids, everything like that. And we were hanging out on the deck and we were shooting and we were doing like a real, 3-camera shoot. We had Andy Thompson was with me, one of the guy who actually shot behind the scenes for The Last Dance, one of my producers at the time, in the Winnicks and we're all shooting. And Ahmad and Jordan, are picking up. Then Jordan keeps telling Ahmad, I could have been a quarterback. I could throw a football. And, Ahmad's like, hey, yeah. So they're throwing the football and they're getting separate. So he says to Ahmad, he goes, I could throw a football 70 yards in the air. And Ahmad's like, come on. And I look at him, I go, come on. But in the back of our mind, we didn't really doubt him because you never doubt Superman. When Superman says he can do something, Superman can do it. So he goes, all right, we'll walk it off. So we sent one of the producer guys out and he literally went through another yard into another person's property, and he walked off, basically walked 70 yards. And Jordan just takes a couple of steps, hauls off, sidearms the ball, and there's this missile that goes into outer space. And I was like,
ready, George? Easy. Right there. That's with a sore wrist, man.
And it hit the guy at 70 yards. He, without warming up, he threw a ball 70 yards.
Yeah, he also flew in the air. You're right. I would never doubt that guy. I had a lot of disdain for him. Younger James Randazzo had a lot of disdain for him because I'm a Knicks fan. I was rooting for the Jazz in '98 because I was so tormented by Michael Jordan every single year. Obviously, now you look back on and you're like, this guy is the greatest. How could you?
There were moments. It's funny. There were moments when you believe, when Phoenix came back and tied the series, or came back from 3-1, and oh my God, or Seattle won 2 games in a row, or the Jazz took the lead. And then you would come back to your senses. There's no way that he's letting another team beat him in the finals. Okay, there's just no way. The only reason he lost in '95 was because he came back so late that year. He wasn't in shape. The team wasn't really built. He had to they had to rejigger the team around him. And it was tough. So they lost to the Magic in that series. But once he had a season under his belt, there's just no way he was losing. That's the difference. See, here's the difference. I try to explain to people, and I don't really care what anybody says. I'll argue, if you want to argue 2 through 100 best basketball players ever, I'll argue with you all you want. If you want to argue number 1, if you guys want to argue, I'm going to take the headphones on, I'm getting up and I'm walking out.
I don't want to do that.
Because honestly, I don't have the time. I'm not young enough anymore. I won't get that part of my life back. Okay? It's a waste of my time because here's the thing about hoops. It's mental. He was evil I don't mean in a sadistic, but on a court sense, in a competitive sense.
Right.
It's the most competitive. There's basically him and Bill Russell were the 2 meanest guys that ever played the game. Bill Russell would never, if you were injured, you were this, he was relentless. He would never let you off the hook. Winning was everything. And obviously won 11 times in 13 years. He's the greatest winner in sports history. Jordan, all he cared about was winning. That's why people think, he's a gambler. The only reason he gambled because he knew if he bet you in golf a couple $100,000, he knew he'd be getting you at your best. He didn't want you to lay down. So if you gamble so he could play somebody at their best. All he cared about is competition. I played ping pong with him. He was a savage, okay? He was a savage.
Yeah.
All he cared about is winning everything. He just couldn't, he didn't want to lose in anything.
That's great.
Now you spoke about Bird, Magic, MJ, and then it all culminates together with the Dream Team. And you traveled to Barcelona with them, and you were there every step of the way. What was that like? Was that just full rock star mentality?
Yeah.
Were they giving it their all,
Well,
to really blow people out, or was it?
Well, it actually starts in San Diego when the team got together, and then they played the college team. Remember with Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill and all them, and they were kind of taking it, and those guys beat them.
Yeah.
And then they went in, and Chuck Daly embarrassed them and told them, he challenged them. And the next game, they ran those kids off the court. And then we went up to Portland for the Tournament of Americas, then on to Monte Carlo for the week of practice because they didn't want to land in Barcelona with the time change. So we spent a week in Monte Carlo. It was really rough, I know. They had to twist my arm to go.
Sounds like the worst life of all time right now.
Yeah, like the beaches of Monte Carlo, I don't want to tell you what they were wearing on the beaches, but
you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want on the podcast.
And we went golfing with the king of the king of Monte Carlo up on the golf course, and it was just crazy. But that game, there's a famous game in Monte Carlo, which was in if you read the Dream Team book, or if you Jack McCallum's book is great, I recommend it. And or if you watch the Dream Team documentary, I was in 2 out of the 3 of them. But basically, the greatest basketball game ever played was the game in Magic. Magic just pushed his button. You saw it a little bit of it in Last Dance. Basically, they would scrimmage. So Jordan had a team, Magic had a team, and they split the teams up. And Jordan's team was up, and they're winning. And Jordan starts talking trash and starts riding Jordan. And that was it. The bell went off. Jordan got crazy. Chuck Daly, who told me afterwards, everybody was thrown. He threw everybody out of the gym. We had full access. I was tossed. Drew was tossed. There was one camera up top, a scouting camera that Chuck had to, that would always shoot all the practices so they could go over it. That was the only camera. And my friend Pete Skorich, who was the video camera guy for Chuck there, was the only guy besides the coaching staff. Everybody was tossed from the gym. They played this game afterwards. It was so weird because people weren't talking and this and that. And finally, like a couple of days later, I said, Chuck, what the hell happened? He goes, I thought they'd put me on a plane and send me back to the United States. If any of those guys got hurt, I was done. He said it was the most physical, competitive, fierce basketball game. People going off, Jordan screaming at his teammates, screaming at the other team, Magic and Jordan going, and of course Magic even said, I tricked the tiger. I shouldn't have poked the tiger.
He can't poke the bear.
Tiger.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't.
And it's still famous. It's probably the most competitive game ever.
No, that is truly awesome. I can't even imagine what it would be like just being there with you. Like any of that stuff, being around Michael Jordan just sounds like you're living.
Barcelona, and then, so we were pretty, there was a lot of attention in Monte Carlo. We get to Barcelona, and nobody expected that. It was literally 5,000 people. We couldn't leave the hotel. They couldn't go out, except Barkley, of course, who would walk on the Romblets every night. He didn't care. He'd go out, and party with everybody, and hang out, and walk up to people. But Charles is a whole nother. He's the greatest.
I love him. I love him so much.
Charles Barkley is probably the greatest guy. I love Charles. He's still a good friend. Nice. I'm still in touch with him. I love Charles Barkley. He is who he is. I mean, he says stuff, but he doesn't care. He has no filter.
Well, I was a runner back in 2015 for CBS Sports. I've been there 5 years now, and I remember my first year, I just saw him. I came out of the elevator and I saw him, and he is the most humongous person I've ever seen in my life. Don't
go to sleep on his basketball skills.
Oh, never.
At the Olympics, he was the best player.
He had the Sega Genesis game.
He was the best. He was the best player on the Dream Team, like performance-wise.
Really?
This is the only guy in my time at the NBA, Jordan, Magic, Bird, the only guy who could get a rebound anytime he wanted. And I mean, if there's two people in front of him at 6'4.5", go in, grab the rebound, come down, take the ball up court, cross over, dribble full, and steamroll, two-hand dunk down the middle. There's nobody that could do that like Charles Barkley. No one.
He's a
In
nice guy.
his day, he's a top 15 basketball player of all time, unarguable.
Wow.
Unarguable.
Love to hear that.
Is there a moment in Barcelona that just kind of stands out to you and you say, you know, I will never forget this moment for the rest of my life?
Yeah, well, so I'll get to that in 1 second. So we get there and we just can't believe it. The sirens and police and barricades and 5,000 people outside the hotel just to get a glimpse of the guys getting off the bus and walking 25 feet into the hotel. And it was crazy and screaming and signs and then coming out to practice and then going back and traveling. So we were in the hotel and, I mean, we were allowed to leave, obviously, because, you know, me walking out of the hotel isn't the same, as David Robinson and Patrick Ewing and Barkley and those guys. The only guy, though, it's a funny story, the only guy that could do it was John Stockton. He's nobody. So we actually, there's a feature, you could actually go Google it.
I've watched this. Yeah, I've watched this.
This was for inside stuff. We took Stockton with his wife and his kids. He's 6'1", dark hair. He looks like you two, So we take him to the Ramblas and he's walking down. He's got the baby carriage. He's got the 3 kids, his wife, and he's wearing his caricature Dream Team shirt, which I still have a few of, and on there. And we said, just wear the shirt. We're walking, and people come. So nobody's coming up to him. Nobody's saying a word. So finally, we're goading people. Hey, you know what that is? We're getting people. He's on the Dream Team. The guy's coming up and goes, "You're not on the Dream Team." And then so his son, one of the goes, "No, look," and he points to the caricature on his shirt. He goes, "That's my dad." He looks, "John, that's you? You're John Stockton." You got to realize at that time, Stockton, he hadn't played in the finals yet. He wasn't, and also, there was a lot of people saying that he took Isaiah's spot. Because Isaiah should have been on the Dream Team and all that stuff. So John Stockton wasn't that popular at that time. So he was the only guy who could leave the hotel. But anyway, it was maddening. It was just maddening. But the day that, and I did this in Jack's book, was we were shooting. We had the day of the gold medal game laid out as our day per our contract with CBS Fox Video. So we had a 5 video deal with them to do 5 Michael Jordan videos with Jordan. So we had a deal with Jordan to do that. So we had done Come Fly With Me. We had done Michael Jordan's Playground. So this was the 3rd home video, Michael Jordan airtime. And we had a day earlier in Monte Carlo, which we shot. And then we had one day at the Olympics. It was the gold medal day. So the night before, the guys would be in the recreation room, and they play cards all night. And in that room could be anybody. I mean, Denzel Washington came in the room one night. Spike Lee would be here, Ahmad. It would be like anybody and everybody would come visit in there, and they play cards all night. So
were you throwing down in there as well?
No, I wasn't playing cards with them. But you think I could afford to play in that game? Anyway, so it's Magic and Bird and Jordan and Barkley and Ewing and they're all in there hanging out and playing cards. They're playing, and now I'm getting up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. with Jordan so he could, this is in my mind, okay, and I'll get him back by 1. I have a 5-hour shoot plan, get him back by 1, 2 o'clock so he can take his nap. Because the gold medal game didn't start till like 11 o'clock that night, okay, because of time-wise, all right? So they're playing cards, and they're going all night, and I'm kind of pacing. It's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And I'm like an old hen, okay? Just like Michael, and all the guys are like teasing him. That's right, Michael, you got to get up. You got to go shoot. You got to go do your own video. And they're all teasing him this and that. So finally, like, the game ends at 6. And I'm like, okay. So I'm walking. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm walking you to your room. He goes, all right, let me go in. Let me shower. Let me get ready. I'll be out in 15 minutes. I said, you're going to go in, you're going to go to sleep. I know it. Don't go to sleep on me. And he's like, I told you I'll be out. I'll be out. Now, I don't know if you saw the outfit he was wearing. It was like the Coming to America outfit.
Yeah, we're gonna put that in here for right now.
Yeah, I have photos I could send you of that with me and him.
Appreciate
So we went. But anyway, he comes out and he actually comes out. And I go, oh my God. So we go, and now I'm up all night and I'm beat, okay? But forget, I don't care. I've done that a million times. So we go out, we stop at the commissary, we're having coffee we're shooting everything. Where he's having coffee with all the workers at NBC. He gets in the cab, and the shot in the cab when he's talking, that's me talking to him. That's my voice in the cab and talking. So we do that. We go, and now I planned this thing where we go out to the main boulevard in Barcelona, and there's that 5-story poster of Michael, for Nike up on things. So I planned this whole shoot. I have a cameraman across the street. I have a cameraman in front of him. And I said, I just need you to walk by, and as you get under it, just kind of look up and nod your head, and this and that. And that's where that famous shot comes from, and this and that. Then we go, and then I said, all right, and I made arrangements, but they weren't there, to go over to Olympic Stadium and for him to walk into Olympic Stadium. And I planned this whole thing out where it's all dark in the tunnel, and he emerges into the light, and then he walks around by the torch, and he talks, and we had all that. Well, what happened was, we didn't realize the night before, 50 soldiers from the Spanish army were guarding and I started to go, they wouldn't let us in, and I have to negotiate. So I had to go get my driver over, and he's interpreting for me, and I'm negotiating with this captain of the Spanish army. These guys all have rifles, just turn and shoot me if they want it. And so we finally get all the shots, we get all that. So we finish. Anyway, long story short, I'm probably boring you with all this.
No, we're loving this. Keep this going.
All right. So anyway, so we're driving back. I'm trying to get him back to the hotel it's a little late, by 2. We still have, he can still nap, shower. He goes, hey, do me a favor. Drop me off at the golf club over here. I left my clubs there. I'm just going to shoot 18 or 36. And I was like, what? Now, mind you, it's 97 degrees and 100% humidity in Barcelona. I'm telling you, you would walk out of your room, the sweat would pour off of you. So he'd been up all night. He shot all morning. Now he's going to go out into the thing. He went and he shot 36 holes of golf, right? Now he had to come back. So everyone's back at the hotel, and he's not back. And they're all like, what happened? I thought you were supposed to get him. I said, what am I going to do? Tell him he can't? He went, so all of a sudden, here he comes, a half hour before the bus is leaving at 9:30, at 9 o'clock to the arena. He gets there at 8:30. He had just played 36 holes of golf. Now he's up 48 hours, okay? 48 hours, plays 36 holes of golf. He goes in, showers, makes it out with all the guys, gets on the bus, plays the gold medal game that night. Now, if that's not Superman, okay? And then that's when I realized, at that moment, this isn't a normal human being. This isn't anybody. This isn't any athlete. I don't care. Ken Griffey Jr., name the greatest athlete in any sport. There's nobody who's even in this guy's league. And he played the gold medal game. And then they flew back the next morning to the United States.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
That's amazing. In 2007, you took on a role with the New York.
You're not going to let Bryan get a follow-up on that?
No, I mean, honestly, Icey.
Look, he's sitting there with his mouth open.
Icey's the point guard on the show, and I let him steer it anyway. But I have to talk about the New York Football Giants.
I know. I'm busting your balls. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We like to do that on this show. We were busting his balls last time with Chris Duan, last episode. So he can take a joke, and I definitely can take a joke too, because people like saying a lot of stuff about me.
We'll let James get this in about the Giants. He's a diehard Giants fan. He's got to hear it.
All right. Eli Manning, what are your thoughts on him just as a person? I personally, obviously he's my favorite.
Well, it's my first year. Here's the thing. Listen, as much as Jordan's obviously the greatest athlete I've ever worked with. The greatest person in sports I've ever worked with is Eli Manning.
Really?
Without a doubt. And and combine the achievements and everything. So to me, Eli's the greatest I've ever worked with for so many reasons. Okay, well, one is my first year was 2007. So David Stern was right. It's better to be lucky than smart. So I get to the Giants, we win the Super Bowl, and I think Bryan remembers.
Are you the reason that they won the Super Bowl also?
Most likely. Obviously, I changed the whole defense. You know, they were. I said, Spags, come here. You know, no, but so it's just I've never seen any. He's the most unique at. Put it this way: he's not the greatest athletic athlete. Obviously, he's not the greatest. His achievements like Brady and this and that. But he's the most unique athlete I've ever worked with. I've never seen anybody that is so nonplussed about pressure and any kind of situation. A minute and a half, 2 minutes left, you're down, just goes there, goes back to the equipment, puts on his helmet. Okay, guys, let's go. His heart rate in a preseason game in August is the same as in the Super Bowl. I've never seen anybody that nonplussed about pressure in my entire life. 2, he's clutch. And 3, he's the greatest teammate anybody's ever had. He's never in his whole career, through a teammate, a coach, anybody, been rude, never said anything negative about anybody else. Always took the blame on him. Yeah, that's on me. That's on me. We just got to play better. And listen, almost to the point where people thought he was boring about it, but he did it. He had no social media accounts. Now he's on Twitter.
Yeah.
And he's hilarious. But he never had a social media account. Smart as hell for doing that. Look how many people got in trouble with that. All right. This guy is the most unique guy I've ever, funniest guy ever, great sense of humor, just an amazing sport, a go-to guy. I can't tell you. He's my favorite guy I've ever worked with.
And have you got to meet Joe Judge yet?
Yes, of course.
I mean,
well, in January before, the first 3 months, I haven't seen him physically. I've talked to him, but I haven't seen him physically since early March, obviously, with all this.
What is he like? Because I was on the train on the Metro North going into the city to work, and I got that whole Joe Judge thing. Then I'm Wikipediaing him. I'm like, all right, he was with Saban, he was with Belichick, and then you hear the guy talk and you want to run through a brick wall with him. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, you just said the 2 games. If you take parts of Saban, parts of Belichick, but then parts of Joe Judge, that's what you got. Unbelievably organized, unbelievably full of motivation, energy, wants to be part of the community, wants to know everything about New York, the boroughs. He wants to bleed this team. He realizes this is a legendary franchise. This is an iconic franchise. This is a franchise that has an incredible tradition of great players, great teams and stuff. And he wants to be part of that fabric. And he wants to reinvent or, rebrand this team and back to what it should be and used to be.
Well, we're huge fans of the Maras. We love the Maras big time. We know a couple of them. So, and I argue with a couple of them about bringing back the fullback. I think that Joe Judge is honestly, I think that Joe Judge is going to come in and absolutely change the makeup of this organization, something that McAdoo couldn't do. And I don't even want to mention Shermer's name, but I guess I have to. I mean,
both good guys, wrong place, wrong time. Coaching is a tough thing.
But clock management.
Timing is everything. Listen,
timing is everything.
Timing is everything. They both had good points to them, but you know what? Unfortunately, things didn't work out, and now we're looking to the future. So
I love it. I love it, and the draft was great too.
Yeah, you hope. Listen, it's my good friend and partner and Carl Banks always says, "We'll know when they put on the pads."
Fair.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
Good draft guys, the combine, people love numbers and how fast you ran, how high you jumped, how much you lifted. But is he a football player? Carl Banks would always say, there's guys that look great, at the combine, but are they football players? It's a big, big difference. Jesse Armstead, okay? Guy played a little bit probably before your time, in the 90s.
Number 58.
Eighth round, 898. 8th round draft pick. 8th round. A football player. 4 Pro Bowls, This guy was mean. This guy knew. He just had a nose for the ball. There's just certain guys that know how to play football, you know? The Jets drafted a guy, Vernon Golston. Remember? Had all the numbers, everything. Not a football player.
And I'm waiting around to see Mekhi Becton. I'm waiting around to see Mekhi Becton because that guy he's a dinosaur. He runs fast as hell, but can he shuffle his feet?
Yeah, you don't know it.
No, you have no idea. You don't know.
No.
One thing that I want to touch on, you've been around, you know, championships and winning championships and whatnot. What was so different about 2007? Like the Super Bowl experience, you know, you've been to the NBA Finals. Does the Super Bowl trump everything?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to say. Yes, because you're working for the team. The difference is working at the league level where you have to have 32 teams. You have to be fair and equal to everybody, and you're covering it. So you don't really you're not vested in any one thing. When you work for a team, it's everything. Especially the NFL, 16 games. Every game counts. When you win, everybody's in a good mood, walking around, smiling, looking at each other. When you lose, no one makes eye contact. It's a funeral at the office when you lose. Football is so important. So that team, I mean, there was a point the year before I got there that they were going to fire Coughlin, and this wasn't right, and this and that. And we got off to an 0-2 start. And then on the road, they became road warriors, 11 in a row on the road. And it just started to gel. And the defense just started to get this personality. And you had Strahan on one side, OC on the other, Tuck up the middle. Tuck, who was an end, was playing up the, and you had this fierce mentality. And Antonio Pierce at the middle linebacker, who was just such a great leader. Then you had Eli, and then you had this young kid, Bradshaw, and Brandon Jacobs. And, you know, you had Plax, who was just amazing, and Amani Toomer, and the rookie, you know, and then you had Steve Smith, the rookie, you know, and you saw this team start to gel. And we knew when we played the Patriots in the last game of the season in Giant Stadium, and we took them to the limit. They were trying to stay undefeated, and Coughlin decided not to rest any. We had already clinched the wild card. Coughlin decided not to rest anybody. And we played them to the very end, and the Patriots knew. And we knew right there that if we play them again, we're going to beat them, because we were on our way up at that point. We were getting better every game. Patriots, I think, were kind of just at the peak and just trying to hold on to that peak. And that game was just, you know, what people don't understand is, Eli, we held the ball. Our first drive, we had the ball for a 10-minute drive. We had the ball 10 minutes on the first drive. And so we put them on their heels. And we were just hitting Brady the whole game, whether we sacked him or not. Boom, contact, hit him after, sacked him, knocked him. He was like getting up. He was getting angry. He was getting frustrated. He was yelling at his offensive lineman. I mean, it was just like, keep hitting him. Spagnuolo was magnificent. He coached his defense that game. He coached one of the best defensive games I've ever seen.
Absolutely. So you've done it all in media. What's your best advice for someone like us? We're trying to make it on our own. I also work a little bit in the industry. And what's the best advice you would give to somebody like us?
You know, yeah, it's so, because, you know, the landscape is so different now. Well, obviously now with COVID and everything, we're talking like this, we know that, but hopefully, you know, this will end eventually. But, you know, my advice is to stay in digital media and to start finding your niche of what you do in digital media, because unless you're really in televised sports and you're an announcer, or you're a great cameraman, or you're a director, or if you're just kind of more of an editorial type person like you guys, you know, stay in digital media, stay in social media, find the right avenues, find something that makes you guys unique. You know, you got to find like what you're trying to do now. Listen, who knows? You know, what's her name? The girl who's on Fox now who had the blank. I'm having a senior moment, Bryan.
Don't worry about it.
What's her name? She does the talk show on Fox. Sports.
I'm a CBS guy.
She does sports.
Yeah,
you know, whatever. Katie.
Katie Nolan.
Yeah, Katie Nolan.
Okay.
Like, just a blogger and a this, or or you know, or how about like Bill Simmons?
Right.
Blogger.
Right.
He got lucky, found his niche, and look at him now, Oh, he's
Yeah.
but things like that, or you just got to kind of find something that you don't just blend in, but is popular, but sets you guys apart. That's kind of maybe a little edgy without being, to me, you don't want to get you don't want to throw everything out with one story in one day. And I'm going to be edgy for one night because 2 days later, that's the thing about social media now. They don't remember you.
Right.
You can do something crazy and 2 days later, no one remembers. You got to do something that stays, something that maintains, like that Good Morning Football on NFL Network. That's a great show. All those 4 people become personalities, and they've all found their niche, and they've all, and they've gotten popular. And then obviously, staying tuned to Twitter, all the new social media platforms and so forth. You guys got to keep plugging in, and also do it with passion, because people can tell if you don't love something. Here's what I always told. I've hired literally thousands of people in my life. Being smart, you could be really good. If you're smart, you could probably be good at something. The only way you're going to be great is if you have passion.
Yeah.
If you have passion, that's how you can achieve greatness. Why is Steven Spielberg a great director? Because he has passion, because he lives and breathes. If you see that opening 40 minutes of Private Ryan, every detail in there, they said he drove the crew and cast nuts. But when you see the final product, everybody, thank God he was crazy.
Yeah.
He drove everybody to that.
We're on day 1800 of me steering the ship. I scream, I yell all the time. I mean, Icey is the one who calms me down most of the time, but I'm the one screaming at the Yankee games. And, we really have a good thing going now with our team. I mean, Icey's doing the Knicks. We have the girls show that just launched. They're doing their stuff over there. So we're building, we're trying to build. And, I've done stuff at CBS Sports. I produced a little bit. I've done the EBS machine. I've done graphics. So I'm trying to learn that and apply it to stuff that we do here.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good idea. Being adept at a lot of things, because work is crazy. Like all of a sudden now, a lot of the freelancers that worked in control rooms were out of work. Okay, right. So having another thing to fall back on. So doing this, but then maybe on the weekends, being able to work at a control room or a stadium control room or something like that, having another talent is always good.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Icey, you have any other questions?
I just want to say, Don, really appreciate you coming. You Mr. Behind the Scenes himself, so you gave us some great stories.
I hope that one story with Jordan wasn't too long, but
oh no, I love that.
Kind of unique, I thought.
I mean, yeah, you talk Michael Jordan stories. We'll sit back. I mean, I'll go get the cocoa and we can do this for another 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining.
All right, guys, my pleasure. Hey, listen, behave yourself, Bryan.
Always.
All right.
Thanks again.
Welcome to Breaking the Ice. We are joined by special guest Karate Mike Driscoll. Mike, thanks for joining us. And
nice to be here.
Mike, this is your first time on Breaking the Ice. We like to just talk about little things with dating. Everyone has to date. It's the struggles, that everyone deals with. So we like to just hear other people's perspectives, maybe what they look for. And we're just going to ask you a couple questions. You don't have to give us too much. Feel free to tell us.
I'm going to give you so much. I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to be a fluid as hell. All right.
Love that. So first off, we have a lot of our listeners are in the, 18 to 30 range. So that really changes dating. What did you think was the biggest adjustment in terms of dating and, speaking with girls going from college to real life? What was the hardest part, and where did you really find your niche?
The hardest part is probably the fact that you start off probably sober. In college, I feel like you just show up to a bar drunk, which is a terrible way to meet people. If I go grab drinks with a girl, you're basically sober and it's it's kind of like this conversation. It's not that much different than this. It's like going on a date, and if you're into them, you kind of know it, and sometimes they're not into you, or or they are. It's much different though, for sure.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. The latter part, where they're just not that into you. Yeah. Do you have any techniques? You go to the bar, you sit down. Are you ordering a drink? Are you ordering a drink for the girl? Or are you just
Okay, you want to hear my rundown here?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll show up 15 minutes early, or I used to show up 15 minutes early, but now it's already built in that the girl's going to show up 15 to 30 minutes late. So you plan it probably a half an hour earlier than you want, and I show up. Obviously, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm running behind." So I'll order a beer. I'll get waters. I'll scope out a good seat with a good situation. I'll have her sit on my left because my left side is my better side.
Smart.
And I'll think of a few funny things to say. I never end up saying them. She comes, we talk about probably the weather to start, and it just goes off from there. Usually don't have too terrible of a time, but I have had a few bad ones, and those really suck. But typically it's just a normal conversation. If you're into each other, you probably hook up. If not, you say goodbye.
And we heard bad right there. What was the worst date that you've ever had?
I had a girl who was just argumentative, and she would just start arguments, and she like complained about the service. Just a terrible person, and I should have done more research, because if you look at enough social media, if you can somehow get your hands on their Instagram, you'll probably know if you want to pursue it. And I didn't care enough. I didn't go and find her Instagram, and shame on me.
Got to do the due diligence.
Due diligence is very, very important.
So we mentioned the actual date aspect, but a very difficult part for people is the approach. So when you're preparing to, whether it's approach a girl at a bar or a public setting or something, what is something you look for? What is a vibe, or, certain attributes that you look for, certain, maybe a look on their face, something like that? What do you look for before approaching?
First, I pick out a girl that I think is attractive. You're always looking around a bar, and I'm not good at this, but I have had some success with just trying to get eye contact and make, if they give it back to you, then my line is, I don't know, it's kind of lame. It doesn't always work, but I'll just be like, "Hey, I noticed we were making some eye contact. I feel like a vibe here." And it's worked a few times, and sometimes it doesn't, but it's an easy way to see if they're into you. If they're into you, they'll like that.
Yeah. And let's be real. Ted Williams, we got a Boston guy here, best hitter of all time. He batted 400. You're not going to – every single girl is not going to reciprocate the eye contact. They're not going to reciprocate the conversation, but it's a numbers game.
I can't wait to try it again. I can't wait to get out there, make some eye contact, hit some foul balls, strike out a few times, maybe get a walk, get pegged. Who knows?
The best is the bunt. The best is the bunt, just the drag bunt down the line.
The bunt is like 2 a.m., although I never stay out till 2 a.m. anymore. At 2 a.m. and you're like, "Oh, I think you're hot. Oh, let's go back." That's a bunt.
Okay. I like that.
And one last thing that, the preparation for the day is extremely important. You said, the social media preparation, but the preparation for you, what's kind of your pregame ritual, whether it's music, whether it's working out, and then I'll have a follow-up after that, but let me know about that first.
A physical, like how I physically get ready for the date. I typically will go on a first date on like a Thursday or a Wednesday. It's casual, no expectations. So I'll get home. I'll try to go for a quick run, maybe run even just a mile, just to, be physical, get pumped up a little bit, shower, give myself enough time that I'm going to be able to dry off, listen to some music, maybe smoke a little weed. I don't drink before a date. Don't need that. It seems like a lot of girls like to have wine before dates. I don't drink before a date. And then I play some music, some pump up music. And I even, when I show up to the bar, sometimes I keep one headphone in and I keep playing the music. I'm a weirdo. So don't take my advice, anyone that's listening to this, especially if you're younger. It won't work for you. It's not working for me either. That's why I'm single.
Hey, we know a bunch of girls, and Icey has something that he does where he throws his cast out to all these single people. So, maybe we'll get you on a bachelor type show. I don't know. Icey might be on. we might have to go on a 3-person date with other people. I feel like
Well, I've
that would
seen
be
some
great.
attractive girls on the Sports Chill TikTok. Are those girls that you know, or are those
Those are our friends.
TikTok
That's
celebrities?
our team right there. Our team. We got
Oh,
the
I got to
squad.
check them out a little more. I thought you didn't know them. I thought they were just famous TikTokers. Some of them
Oh,
look pretty
some
attractive.
are, and some of our team, really, what's the difference? All women are beautiful inside and out. That's the way listen, I got myself in a lot of trouble, saying the wrong things to women, not too egregious at all, because
You got into some trouble saying the wrong things to women. What did you say to women?
Not trouble, but maybe I bat like 100. You know what I mean? I'm not, but I'm shooting from 70 feet out. I'm just shooting from 70 feet out, and I don't care. Maybe
You're Steph Curry.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Maybe I'm
With
like,
not the hit rate.
yeah, no, not the hit. I'm like,
Eddie House or someone.
no, what was the movie with Ben Stiller and where the guy?
Seymour Hoffman. Rain
yeah.
Oh, Phil Seymour Hoffman.
That's me. I'm
Rain
shooting.
Man.
I'm shooting, and I don't care.
Keep shooting, brother.
Thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you soon, and don't forget to check out the Daily Chill. Mike was just on yesterday, so check that out.
Check it out.
Thanks.
Peace out, guys. Thanks a lot for having me. Awesome.
Thanks for coming on, Mike.